This topic is selected by Swamiji Chidanandji, and he is supposed to speak, but he is a little bit late. So I will just make a little comment that this problem of analysis
आवाज
is
नहीं आ रही.
very. Ah, Age, are you able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This problem of analysis is very helpful in solving problems of technology or physics, where people, when there is a large system and we want to understand, then we break up the whole system into small parts and we examine and then put together. So this analysis is very helpful in, like, electrical engineering. When I was studying electrical engineering, that in a big network there are many power stations and many consumers. They are connected together in a network of wires, and then we analyze what they call load flow studies, and by analysis they find out which transmission line is getting overloaded and which is not getting enough power. So with that analysis, we can solve the problem, technological problem.
मुकेश
But
से बात
here,
कर ले. मुकेश को फोन लगा दे, वो बात कर रहा है, मैं मीटिंग में हूँ.
here we are talking about analysis of the human mind, psychological analysis, and whether that can solve the problem, human problem like fear or anger or jealousy and so on. And psychologists, psychiatrists, they use this analysis. And what they do, they ask the patient about their past life and what happened, how this problem came into existence. And then the psychologist thinks a lot, and it is a very lengthy process. It is kind of trying to look at the source from where this problem started. And so they also look at individual problem like a fear or anger or jealousy. But Krishnamurti is not doing analysis. Krishnamurti's teachings is about looking at ourselves as we are without an analysis. That means not creating a fragment called I or me, and then I am looking at my problem, whether anger. So I and anger, they are separate in this analysis. But Krishnamurti says that that is not the way, that one has to look at anger when it arises. That means one needs a looking clearly at how our mind is functioning. And without that, it creates this analyzer and the analyzed, me and my anger. It creates more conflict and it doesn't solve our problem. So, this choiceless awareness or looking at very clearly at whatever is happening without trying to solve any problem, that is, that reveals the whole picture of our mind. All problems, whether it is fear or anger or jealousy, when they are arising, they can be seen at the source, and they are seen not from the fragment called thinker or me or I, but it is the awareness which is looking at whatever is arising. And in that, that seeing clearly how problem is created that seeing itself is the solution. And so at one time, Krishnaji had met a psychoanalyst, and the psychoanalyst was helping a lady to solve her problem. And it was a very lengthy process. Many months had gone by. And then when this psychologist came to Krishnamurti and he told that this lady who had some problem, she attended Krishnamurti's talks, and by initially in the first talk, when this lady listened to Krishnamurti, she could not understand and she was more confused. But her friend said, please listen more talks. And she listened two more talks, and then she got what Krishnamurti was trying to say. And, and she was able to solve her problem, very quickly. And then she came to the psychologist, and the psychologist was also surprised that how she could solve the problem just by listening to Krishnamurti very attentively. And so this psychologist is asking Krishnamurti that is there any method by which we can go directly right at the source of the problem? Because in the psychologist method, it requires a very, very long procedure, asking many, many questions to the patient. So Krishnamurti asked the psychologist that what are you trying to do with your patient? Are you trying to make them help fit into the society so that they can function all right? Or you really want to make your patient free from all problems and not make them fit into the society, which is already not healthy. So, fitting into the unhealthy society is not a sign of health. That is what Krishnaji says. So, that Krishnamurti's approach is quite different, and some people who can get very quickly what Krishnamurti says, then they don't need to go to any person. Not even they don't need to read Krishnamurti also, but they begin to observe their own mind clearly from this choiceless awareness or intelligence. And so this is what I have to say, that Krishnamurti's approach, it, it tries to solve not any specific problem and not trying to make people fit into the society, but a real clarity. With clarity, one can live day after day, watching very clearly whatever is happening and being very fresh, very energetic, alert to look at everything, whether it is the outside world or the inside world. So I think I have said enough things. If Swamiji has come, then Swamiji can start or some other.
I am here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidanandji. Please start speaking, and after
Yeah.
you, we will be asking Harshad sir to continue.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I am sure Harshadji has shared with you some of the very basic issues connected to this topic of this evening, the problem with analysis. Thank you, Harshadji, for filling in. I will now share some thoughts from my side. It is a very complex topic, and a lot of people who may not have uh, looked at the issue in a certain way might get confused because the human mind is so used to analyze things, find out the cause, find out the reason. Why did this happen? Why do I get angry? Why did I desire something which was not appropriate? Why am I so weak? How can I become strong? All this why and how and all this create in the mind a duality. I am this, I should want to become that, I should have spoken like this, but I spoke in another way. Why did that happen? So, cause hunting, one expression or one form of analysis is cause hunting, finding what was the cause and what is the effect, and so on. And we generally do not realize that in analysis, we take for granted that we are utterly impartial. We are totally unbiased, which is not the truth. The moment we analyze a problem, there comes up within us an analyst. The self takes the role of the analyst. When the self takes the role of the analyst, the self also assumes a certain authority. The self starts saying, well, I know what is right, I know what is wrong, and so on. The self thus, the analyst thus, assumes or imagines certain knowledge. I know it, and now I am going to find out why things happened the way they happened. So there is no freshness of approach. There is no openness in this business of analysis. In various matters of the world, it is a common practice to constitute an inquiry committee, a committee of a few people, sometimes even just a judge. A retired judge of High Court or Supreme Court is appointed, the one man commission, the one lady commission, to find out what actually happened, who is at fault, and all that. But we are not talking about something that happened in the town, something that happened in the society. Even there, these inquiry committees are often accused of being very partial, being sometimes corrupt also, all that. But I am saying, even if an inquiry committee is totally honest, the question remains. The committee may be honest, but did the committee see all angles of view? From all angles of view, I mean, many a time, no. There are lots of limitations, but there is no other way. However, in the individual scenario of you and me, and with regard to deeper issue of certain psychological confusions, see, on a shallow level, suppose I find it very difficult to get up at 6 a.m. or whatever time, I can just look, why am I feeling so tired? Oh, then I realize, oh, how can I forget? I find out the why of it. On a shallow level it is. I slept at 12:30, clearing some more emails. Ooh, that is why getting up at 6 is becoming difficult. So I found out. But that is no way to dismiss certain or eliminate certain deeper confusions, deeper psychological trappings, we may call them trappings. Therefore, in a profound way, Krishnaji has commented, and one of his statements, probably Harshadji made a reference to it. It doesn't matter, I can I will repeat it if he has said already. Somewhere Krishnaji said, analysis is paralysis. What is paralysis? Where a limb, where some part of the body which was moving before ceases to move. Likewise, once we get into this analysis to solve a psychological issue, then the operation of the true intelligence ceases. True intelligence, unbiased, open intelligence, as though takes a back seat. Therefore, analysis impedes, analysis actually hampers understanding of the problem. So, Krishnaji has labored in his talks to show how psychological hang-ups, conditionings go away not through the logic as we ordinarily know. They go through what he calls direct perception. I would say this introduction of the idea of direct perception, that means not through thought, not through reason, not through memory, not through some preconceived ideas of what is good, what is bad. The intelligence deep inside us knows it all. The deep intelligence in us doesn't have to go through a PhD thesis, which was highly appreciated maybe in universities or some academic circles. The purest intelligence is able to see through the games that our ego plays. So, when we say, moment we try to analyze, an analyst comes into the picture. What's the problem with an analyst coming into the picture? The analyst himself or herself is the product of conditionings. This analyzer, call him analyzer or analyst, the subject-object division comes into the picture. The subject, which is in relation to the object. The analyzer analyzes what is to be analyzed and so on. So the analyzer assumes he has knowledge. He begins to censor. You know how movies are censored? Movies are censored, and to an extent, the members of the censor board have their own biases, their own preferences, their own beliefs. You perhaps know, you surely know, I would say, that these days even the Nobel Prize is considered not all that noble. Nobel Prize winners are believed to be influenced by certain mighty powers of this world. Nobel Prize winners sometimes are believed to play to the tunes of certain vested interests on the global level. Once someone becomes a Nobel Prize winner, there is a high likelihood. I'm not saying every Nobel Prize winner then dances to the tunes of those who selected him, those who made him win the much coveted prize. But we are talking of possibilities. The Nobel Prize winner then becomes a subscriber to an ecosystem. The ecosystem which gave him the Nobel Prize has a lot of players in that whole matter. So without going much into the analogy of Nobel Prize, come back. The analyst is not as impartial as we might imagine. I quote a line from Commentaries on Living. Sri Krishnaji says, in the observation of ourselves, we must be totally aware, without judgment, without condemnation, without comparison. When there is no judgment, no condemnation, no comparison, in that state, the mind is fresh, innocent, and capable of direct perception. This is where I would say this is a very challenging topic. When we do not analyze, not through deciding not to analyze, but a certain deep understanding of the limitations of analysis, we do not analyze, we let the intelligence see things. There is an expression used by people in this matter: intelligence beyond thought, intelligence beyond mind, and so on. We must not fall in love with these words: beyond mind and beyond thought and beyond X and beyond Y. This idea of beyond sometimes can, generate a fancy imagination in us. Yeah, I want to go beyond everything. Hold on, don't fall a prey to the special charm in that word beyond. I want to go beyond right and wrong, somebody says. I want to go beyond social morality, somebody says. Wait a little. Are you really going beyond? Are you trying to escape some inconvenience that social morality might be causing to you? So, I would at this point say how in modern advanced physics, they say an observation is incomplete unless you take into account the condition of the observer. The famous example, the well-known example, I must say, is if you are sitting on a train which is stationary and another train is passing by in the next track, you perceive in a certain way. If your train also is moving, condition of the observer, your train also is moving in the same direction as the second train parallel to yours, or in the opposite direction compared with the second train, then your perception will be so different. That is the problem with the analysis. The observer, we think, is unquestionable. Hold on. If you do not understand the, the, the condition of the observer, the self, the analyzer, the analyst, then the way you perceive might be highly erroneous. So, Sri Krishnaji has spoken about this, and I personally find it very mind blowing. If you and I can deeply understand the terrible limitations of analysis, it would be a major milestone in understanding the science of observation. For example, at a certain place we read, or if we are watching a video or hearing an audio, we come across statement. When you see a tree, it's a physical thing. The tree is the object, you are the subject, your eyes are seeing. But when you see your anger, you may want to say, I am the witness and anger is the object. Not exactly. It may serve a purpose to begin like that in certain other schools of philosophy, like the Vedanta. In the Vedanta, it is said, I have anger, I see anger, I am the witnessing consciousness, anger is what is witnessed. After many years of Vedanta study, I know that to say that serves a certain purpose, but there is much more to be understood than settling with that overly simplistic idea of I am drashta and anger, krodha is drishya. Just making one more sentence about Vedanta, I would say there is a big topic. Druk drishya viveka. I am druk, the seer, and anger, lust, jealousy, greed, boredom, call it what you may. All of them are going on in the mind are drishya, druk and drishya. And it is said, separate yourself from the Drishya. It has its own discipline. Vedanta has its own discipline, a way of thought development, a way of clarifying things. So let's not mix things. But without bringing Vedanta or some other philosophical system in the world, if you think of it, when you are angry at that moment, you actually are no different from anger. You don't see any gap at all. Afterwards, you say, I got angry 10 minutes ago and I am very ashamed of it. I regret. I have so much remorse, etc. You say, thus, with respect to psychological issues, to say, I'm able to see something in its entirety would be very false. You are not able to see it in its entirety. You are seeing it already with your mind making its own noise. You judge, you comment, you label it. Oh my God, this thought is so vulgar. I should not be getting it. Ooh, you condemn, you, value it. Now, this kind of valuing, putting a label, etc., is a great obstruction in truly understanding. What makes the whole matter, I'll say this and pause, what makes this whole topic very fascinating, very mind blowing, and it demands a tremendous, care in understanding this is when there is no division, you see whatever is going on in the psychology of yours without creating a division, you as though perceive yourself to be one with it, and there is no attempt to either suppress it or to fuel it further. In that integration, in that some kind of being one with it, intelligence, not thought, not reason, not logic, not knowledge from some book or something, some knowledge you derived somewhere. Pure intelligence takes the entirety of the phenomenon of greed or lust, jealousy or regret, whatever it is, it takes the entirety, and it is really very, very interesting. Something happens. When you are not trying to fiddle with it, when you are not trying to pull something here and push something there, when you are not trying to manipulate, when you are not trying to, redirect your mind in what you think is a healthy direction, and you don't want the mind to go in a direction which you believe is an unhealthy or improper direction. There's no such interference. There is intelligence embracing the entirety of thought, and then that is direct perception. Perception with a certain role given to thought, a role given to mind, perception with a role given to memory has terrible limitations. Analysis, let us say, necessarily has that kind of interference. The analyzer is not pure intelligence. The analyzer is like an agent of some vested interest. The analyzer is like a bias. The analyzer has limitations, and those limitations mess up the process of understanding. In this way, this topic once more joins hands with advanced physics, in fact, advanced dimensions of, I guess, many subjects, science or maths, or I guess I don't know much economics or many other subjects. But with a little background of physics and maths, I can tell you this analysis going away or dropping away, and one is understanding without the subject object division is akin to some of the deepest scientific explorations of modern times. That is what makes it really fascinating, precious, and beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chidanandji. Harshad sir, may I request you to continue? Harshad sir,
Yeah. Um,
voice
Thank
is
you,
clear.
Swami.
Please continue.
Yeah. Thank you, Swamiji. If you are sitting on the bank of a river and the river is flowing, like in Varanasi, you see Ganga River, and you can't do anything about that river. You are just observing, not doing anything. Similarly, there is a kind of a river flowing, the river, the stream of thinking is flowing within us day and night. We are not really thinking, but thinking is going on. And when we get very much curious, interested in looking at this stream of thinking without trying to do anything, just like we don't do anything to the river flowing in front of us. Similarly, we don't do anything to the clouds passing by in the sky. Similarly, the clouds of thoughts, stream of thinking is going on within us, whether we like it or not. And generally, what happens that out of that stream of thinking, there is a branch comes out called me, thinker. And then we say, I don't want to be angry. I don't want this. I want that. And then this duality starts between thinking and thinker. And this thinker is what we can call analyzer. And it wants to analyze the thinking. But actually, it is the same thing. The analyzer is the analyzed in psychological sense. And to see this, it requires the freedom to see, which is not through the thinking itself, but it is through what Krishnamurti would call choiceless awareness or intelligence. So as long as that choiceless awareness or intelligence is not awakened within us, then we will continue to fight within ourselves. I want this, I don't want to be or not to be. That is the conflict which all human beings are going through. And that can be avoided, this kind of inner conflict, only when initially we can sit alone quietly and observe outside things as well as inside watching the thoughts. And sometimes even the mind can stop in this watching. But I think most people are not able to sit quietly all by themselves and directing the attention inward and watching the stream of thinking which is going on. If a person can do it and don't do anything with that thinking, then the problem is solved. Thinking is not a problem. Like I just wrote today that when we had a dialogue with Populji in Rishi Valley after Krishnaji's death, and she was having dialogue with teachers who were interested in Krishnamurti's teachings, and she asked me, "Can you be silent?" I said, "Yes, anytime." Then she said, "Why don't you be silent?" Then I said, "Thinking is not a problem for me. Then she said, then you have solved the problem. That means thinking is not a problem. The thinker coming out from this thinking and trying to analyze, trying to change thinking is the waste, is a conflict. In that we get tired. And today I got a message from a friend on WhatsApp, and he says he's getting bored by trying to become, trying to be good, trying to inject good feelings. So when you try to do something like that, instead of watching what is, not what should be, then that what is seen clearly from this intelligence or awareness, it reveals your own mind completely. And you can see yourself as you are. And in that, there are no conflict. So we don't try to pretend. When we try to pretend uh, that I am intelligent, but if I am not intelligent and I try to pretend, then there will be conflict. So even if I can see that I am angry or I am not intelligent, if I can see clearly, then that clear perception, it is the action, like perception is the action which solves the problem. So there is something very, very great what Krishnaji is saying about looking at our own mind clearly, not through thinking, but through a dimension called awareness. Okay, so in that, the analysis is eliminated and there's clear seeing, and there is no need to even read Krishnamurti. When we are able to look at our own mind, we don't need any guru, any analyzer, any psychologist. So this is something very, very great what Krishnamurti was trying to awaken, that kind of intelligence in which analysis is paralysis. Okay, I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dinesh Waghmare.
Are you able to listen to me, sir?
Yeah,
Here?
very well, very well.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji, and thank you, Harshad Parekh, sir. You already covered most of the things. So I'm just taking out some points from JK, and I will be giving my views on that. First, JK says, analysis doesn't reveal anything. On the contrary, it prevents observation and direct action. Whereas if there is no analysis at all, but only observation, then the mind to observe all the hidden layers and their content must be completely still. Analysis is paralysis because every analysis must be perfect, complete. If you have not completed it, you carry it over as a memory. This point has already covered, but for my views, I thought that this should be repeated. Analysis is the discovery of the cause and effect. This also Swamiji has covered. Now, analysis implies the concept from which you are working. In observation, there is no concept. The process of analysis is a process of evaluation and censoring. This is right, this is wrong, this should be, this should not be, which is the nature of conflict. When the mind has seen the futility, the meaninglessness of analysis with all the problems which are involved, it will never touch it. The mind will never seek to understand through analysis. This is what JK says, some of the important points. Now, my views are, analysis is paralysis is a rather harsh word. Analysis and observation go hand in hand. See, analysis is must in external world for all functional and technological work. This JK also confirmed. Otherwise, living a normal life will be difficult. But it is also clear that it is not very useful in psychological world. My views are all JK talk has reference to the psychological world and not the technological and other aspects. Even in psychological world, when you merely observe, mind must have reference. I will repeat, even in psychological world, when you merely observe, mind must have reference. Otherwise, it cannot be cognizant about reactions. So time is not involved in observation, but it is not because subtle past is not there, but because the mind has already understood the reactions and the analysis is complete. This is very important. The analysis is done by intellect, which has got limitations. So when mind understands the structure of intellect, that is what it can do and what it cannot, then the intellect loses its hold on mind and mind goes for observation quietly. Other point also is, which is to be considered, when intelligence comes into picture, it has to have some reference. This is known as in tradition pragya. When intelligence comes into picture, it has to have reference of your past work. Otherwise, how one can have insight or how the mind can understand the message coming from the intelligence. So there has to be some old reference. So the past, your work, based on your past work only, the intelligence works. This is also my views are. Thank you, sir.
Pradeep sir,
Then we will
please.
see further.
Pradeep sir. Pradeep sir, please.
I am audible.
Audible, visible, both.
Okay.
No
Okay.
problem.
Thank you, friends. Although, as Waghmare said, most of the things have been covered and very in a lucid way. Harshad ji also and Swami ji also. It was pretty clear. But certain things in my mind, you may call that knowledge, invariably we have repeated certain things. You see, each present has all the time. Present has both the things, past, present, future, everything. There is nothing. You see, and you may say there is no time. Then we talk of river of consciousness. Then we talk of Heraclitus, that we don't enter into the same river second time. These are the things which, these are the basic things which create in us certain things when we talk as if each time is particulate in the sense that it has no relationship with other things. Although in new physics, you know that everything is connected to every other thing. Whether I may know it or may not know it, but it is connected, butterfly effect, and so many things are there. So, whether, and he talked about regression analysis also, where the entire past is explored, looked into about a particular person. Whether in present, how much of past, how much of future, what all is there, actually is there in present. So these are certain basic questions that come to me, whether there is a continuity or no continuity, whether entirely different, because the moment when we talk of that insight in which instant mutation takes place, you see, you become an instant new mind, an instant realization. So it shows that That moment, how large that moment is, how much it contains past and inclination of future, etc. So this remains a question in me. Uh, these questions are basic because they are there, uh, and till this moment they are still there. We are talking, we are discussing about what is there as a concept, what is there as knowledge, what impediments are there. Everything right now also we are enclosing everything and the proper and certain things about the future, fantasies, imagination, transformation, definitely. So this remains a little dilemma in my mind. Swamiji, I'll be happy if you clarify certain things. My doubts uh, are there. Harshad Bhai or anyone. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. Swamiji, please.
Towards the end, Pradeep ji used the word dilemma. Can you try to restate the dilemma in 2 or 3 sentences?
Restate the dilemma. When
Yeah.
these things which I consider as truth, either through latest discoveries in physics or my observations, living observations in my daily life, you see, and all those things put together, I'm having all that in my mind right now. So either of these things, whether this moment naturally I'm talking to Chidanandji, he's nodding his head and all those things I can see and see in my own way. So that is there. But dilemma is there whether truth is one or whether all these things are true in a different context, or it's every moment is a fresh moment. All right. Then what are we discussing?
Right.
So these things do come every time. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Now your question is much more clear to me, and I would acknowledge that typically we get very flabbergasted by how so many different mystics put things in different ways. We are deeply drawn to many great thinkers, many great visionaries. And on one hand, there are established schools. Let me not talk about Vedanta only. There is Zen and there is some Sufi mysticism, and there are so many, you know, in even last century, even when Krishnaji lived, there were other luminaries in our own country, Nisargadatta, Ramana Maharshi, all this. So we get sometimes quite puzzled because their language is different. They use different languages, different models as though. Krishnamurti perhaps is one of the greatest attempts in history of philosophy where he has avoided any model, any graphic or other kinds of models. And one more point I think you seem to mention, whether our own personal experience matters more or something said by someone who is, who is not talking from under the hat, but who has actually seen. So there is a lot of debate about that also. Some say that one must listen very carefully to the profound words of a mystic, and then reflecting on those words, a certain understanding dawns upon us. Some others say, stop hearing anybody, stop listening to anybody, sit silently. The truth will arise from deep within. There is again a big controversy there. But I guess all these controversies are a problem when we don't have a certain maturity. As we sometimes listen to somebody and get inspired, and some other time we sit silently without opening any book. Yes, we do get some insights. Probably there is some kind of, there is in technology, in electronic engineering, they use an expression, um, bootstrap. Bootstrap. Boot, shoes, boots. Then when you strap a boot, you have to pull one at one time, next pull the other, another time, again pull this right side, pull the left side. Bootstrap is a word used in certain technical context, but there it is like that, one after another. So listening to a great mystic has its place, and then leaving everybody aside, inquiring, just sitting quietly has its place. Probably there's a bootstrapping that goes on. And then as we rise in our maturity, there's certainly something called maturity. I think that has nothing to do with university education. There is something called philosophical maturity. There may be somebody who never went beyond fifth grade, but he may have tremendous philosophical maturity. He may not have the vocabulary as you and I who have read many books to use, but that kind of rich vocabulary is not necessary. To break through the self-created shackles, you don't need good English or Hindi or Marathi or, all that. If it's there, yeah, then they can communicate very interestingly to large audiences. But coming back and to conclude my 2 cents, I think we do, with a certain openness and certain courage within us, we do go through several processes, and then whatever happens on a higher level, we know. We know when we know. We know when we know. Let me pause here, and maybe Harshadji has something to say.
Harshad sir.
Yeah, I think the word Pradeepji used, instant mutation. I think there is nothing like that, that suddenly a person who has not really looked and suddenly becomes intelligent and begins to see. And also, Dineshji also said that there is a reference for intelligence. So I feel that maybe one can read books and that can help, but much more than keep on gathering the knowledge of what other people have said, one needs to experiment in our own life, means sitting quietly, observing, and that maturity comes slowly. And then at a certain instant, then it becomes this looking, it becomes like effortless. Initially, there is effort involved, like listening, like learning music or learning a language. We need to put a lot of effort, but after certain time or maturity, we don't need to think so much to speak. Like when I went to America, my English was very poor. I needed to think a lot to speak. But now words are coming fluently by themselves. I am not making an effort to speak. So this comes gradually, I think. It's not instant mutation, but it takes time, and it's just like a fruit falls from a tree. You think that it just, but it was ripening day after day, and then finally it fell. So awakening, it may take a lot of effort, lot of experimenting, and then what they call satori in Zen Buddhism, a sudden enlightenment, and then it may happen that once that awakening has happened, then it doesn't go away. Initially, it comes and goes, but after certain maturity, that clarity remains effortlessly. You don't need to do anything, but it goes on by itself. Okay, so that is what I
Prasad,
was.
Prasad sir,
May I
Prasad sir.
may I use
Now
two
Sanori
sentences?
Prasad sir. Prasad sir, please, please,
Namaste, sir.
Verma, let Prasad sir say first, please.
Namaste, sir. I really have nothing special to say. I only want to say that I am a type of fellow who is not easily swayed by anything. No emotional experience or spiritual experience comes to me. And I also don't hanker for that I must get some experience or any such thing. Actually, Pradeep ji, he has expressed certain doubts or whatever, and they are all at a very high level. For me, I have no such high-level doubts. I live at a very normal level. But one thing I can say, I have understood, I think, what Swamiji or what Harshadji have tried to say. Analysis is, Krishnamurti has been talking about that topic, and he has been saying, you are the analyst. You are the analyst means you are the analyzer and you are conditioned. The analyzer is a conditioned entity. I analyze one way and you analyze a different way because I have one type of conditioning, you have another type of conditioning. Depends upon our backgrounds, our upbringing, and our languages, etc. So it is quite, and there is nothing complicated to understand about that a part of you is posing as the analyzer, and it is trying to say that I am analyzing and something else is being analyzed. I analyze my greed, which means I am separating myself from my greed. And Krishnamurti has been saying, why are you separating yourself? How can you separate yourself? Greed is your personality. It is your character. You are the entity. Greed is the entity. You are that entity. And for me, there is nothing complicated about that idea. It is quite simple. But one thing I find a little difficult, like Pradeep ji has found so many difficulties. What I find difficult is I can't come out of my past. Whenever I try to observe myself, I get involved in my past. My past comes to me. It doesn't leave me. It is there, very much there. And I am aware of it. It is there. I am living in my past. I am not living in the present. So that is there. But then that's a fact of life. You live with that fact. I have no problem because I have no spiritual hankerings. I have no attempt. I do not make any attempt to attain anything. And nothing comes to me. I can openly say I have never had any experience or anything like that. But normally, we can observe. We can observe the tree without the knowledge, without any knowledge about the tree. That we can do. But they're all simple things, and that is the attraction of Krishnaji. And I do not mix so many seers and the saints and all those people, because I am finding what Krishnaji says is observable, and it is valid as per your own experience. I can see a tree, there is no problem about it, or a flower. All these things we can do. Only thing is, I cannot understand even the questions of the level, the questions of the level of Pradeep ji. His questions are at a very high level. I don't really. I'm saying with all modesty, I do not understand. So I do not make any attempt also to understand. But I can see that they are of a very high level, that the regression analysis and all that type of thing which he referred to, with his science background and all that. For me, I have no scientific baggage. I have no science background, so I don't confuse, I don't mix at least these two things, that is Krishnaji's statements and the scientific experiments, modern experiments and all that. Only thing is, I think Pradeep ji has said some time ago, everything is conscious. There is consciousness all over the world or all over the universe. So, I mean, I think my car is also has a consciousness, possibly. But that is not within my experience. Maybe there is, I don't know. Thank you, sir. That's all.
Vimal, Madam Vimal, please.
Yeah,
Madam Vimal,
yeah, sure.
please.
So basically, when we speak of analysis as paralysis, the thing is that this aspect becomes clear to us when we are trying to understand ourselves. Like when we are trying to understand ourselves, we understand ourselves better if we are not analyzing, but staying in that state of choiceless awareness. We begin to see ourselves in clarity. So there's no need for analysis of our own selves. There, that matter is clear. But when it comes to understanding other things outside or having a discussion like this, now if you notice what Krishnamurti does in discussions, when he's having it with scientists or psychiatrists or whatever, he will, even if he has analyzed that topic completely in another lecture, he will approach that topic in a completely new way, as if he's thinking about it then and there. And when he's thinking about it then and there will be so many pauses, and then he'll say, wait, and then something will come along. So what's happening there is that it's not just analysis, it's also sensing things. He seems to allow sensing of not only him sensing, even whoever he's talking to sensing some truth. So here, what's happening here is that it's not just the analysis aspect, it's also just the direct perception is also being allowed to come into the conversation. So in that context, analysis is paralysis. Because just analysis is paralysis. It's not that analysis is inclusive of everything, you come to the truth. As I see Krishnamurti's conversations everywhere, you notice that kind of allowing the sense, a sort of perception coming from different sort of state, not from analysis. So that's what I'd like to just bring up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ravi, please come forward. Ravi, please come forward.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Oh, please.
Yes, sir. Yeah, sir. Today topic is analysis, and this beautiful statement that analysis is paralysis, and in that context, we say analysis is paralysis like when there is observer, and This Chidanand Swami talked about, Drik Drishti Vivek. So I see that Vedant has its own way of saying things, and K has its own way of saying things. But somehow I feel that they are saying the same thing. See, Krishnamurti's statement is like the observer is the observed. I actually don't buy that statement completely. This if the observer is the observed, then how can there be observation without the observer possible? If there is only if there is observer and the observed is unit entity, and there is no scope outside. There is no outside thing available now. Though then that thing is a closed thing. So I don't buy that completely. But on the level of analyzer, on the level of observer, the thing is quite okay. Like the paralysis is analyzed and the observer is observed. When we see the greed and we divide myself from the greed and I work on that greed, I say that I should not and should. All these things, create conflicts and all that. On that level, it is understandable. But you see, I see, you cannot observe. Observe without observation is only possible if there is some scope in the observer in itself. Uski genes mein, in that genes there must be something which is not the totally part of the observer. Somehow I see like that. So this is one thing, and Harshad Parekh always says beautifully about choiceless awareness and all that. Though I always see that this is a conclusion kind of thing, and this that how the Harshad Parekh sir said that when you see clearly, the problem is solved. See how our minds still think in terms of problem. So we are thinking in terms of problem, and then I see that this is continuity remains. And this one beautiful statement: to see as you are. It sees instantly. It seems to me like that. It demands honesty to oneself. To see I am greedy. I am actually greedy. To see that it demands honesty in oneself. And this is one thing. And Dinesh Waghmare sir, this analysis the discovery of cause and effect, very beautiful. So and then he says that he said that in intelligence, for the intelligence we need the past. I object that, sir. On the contrary, intelligence means when there is no past. Intelligence comes into being only when there is no past. If there is any not on the functional level, I'm saying, on the psychological level, if there is any moment of the past, there is no intelligence. You can't, intelligence and the past, psychological past, cannot go together. This is one thing I would like to say. And Pradeep sir raised questions quite heavy. Our current perception and our mind, is it truth or not? What is truth and all that? And then this instant, mutation and all that. So our current perception and our mind is truth. I see somehow these kind of questions are not coming from from your this thing from your whole being, from your whole being. This is kind of philosophical questions you're asking. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me like that. And to me, it's like that. If I have some actual question in my mind, I have to solve it now, not to take it to the another day or to the next another day. If I'm dealing with the fear, I have to see the fear completely today, not to think on that and analyze on that. And it's not like that. Maybe you read on that fully, completely in whole one day. You can do that. And there is some one statement case said like truth is that experience which come into experience when experiencer is not there. So this one thing, and and Vedanta stories is totally, I think it's uh, to talk about the truth, to talk about I am that, or to talk about you are that, and I am Atma Brahma and all that. These, it means when the mind is, not individual anymore, then these things come. And Prasad sir is saying that, I live with the past, which, sir, you have many statements, very beautiful statement you said, and very humbly you said, but it hurt me somewhere. When you say that you live with the past. Why live with the past, sir? How can you hold that statement? The past is the past, it's gone forever. So,
Ravi
and we are
Kaushal
always friends. So
Ravi
it's
Kaushal
one thing. I'm complete, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Ravi, next time, please be visible. Most beautiful is to see you visible. Please take a note of it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Dinesh, finish it in
What I
3
would-
minutes. please. Dinesh, you
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
finish
okay.
it in 3 minutes.
What I would like to say,
Yeah.
Swamiji said about maturity of mind, and that is correct. Because so many questions, when we are asking so many questions and so many questions are arising, one should not forget that truth is not fixed. Truth is dynamic also, and truth is static also. So truth is not actually inclusive of both. So that has to be understood. Immature mind thinks truth is fixed. That is not the case. There is duality, lot of divisions and fragmentations, and also non-duality is also there. So both things are exist simultaneously. The problem is fragmented mind takes only fragmentation or divisions. It cannot take totality and move with totality. So even we see in Krishnamurti lectures, many times he talk about you have to tackle individuality and all that. He talks about that, and many times he says that the mind should be totalitarian. So both things are simultaneously present. This and the problem with mind is particularly immature mind. It cannot take all the things simultaneously. So this has to be understood clearly, and one should see these things. Thank you.
Modak, please end it. I don't want to see anybody audible and visible. Please end it.
Thanks all for participation.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.